And welcome back. Our first conversation, as mentioned prior to our commercial break, it's all about Creative and Cultural Excellence Awards. Joining us in studio this morning is Rolando Cocom. He is the director of the Institute for Social and Cultural Research. Good morning, Rolando.
Good morning, Sam.
And Mr. Cocom is joined by Giovanni Pinello, no stranger to OIE either. He's a public history officer at the ISCR NICH. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
And happy September.
Happy September, yes.
Likewise, yes. Belize at 44, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're recognizing 8 outstanding Belizeans who have contributed in one way or the other to Belize's social and cultural tapestry, if I could describe it as such. Let's talk about the origin of the Cultural and Excellence Awards, and let's talk about what it sets out to achieve.
Right. The Creative and Cultural Excellence Awards is an initiative from the National Celebrations Commission, originating from the chair and Minister of Culture, the Honorable Francis Fonseca, as this opportunity for us to educate Belizeans about the rich, as you mentioned, cultural achievements, the artistic achievements that Belizeans continue to make as we celebrate our 44 years of independence and appreciate that political struggle that was won. I think what this award is doing is saying that there's an ongoing struggle for us as an independent country, which is, who are we now that we are independent? And we, in order to answer this question, we return to our artists, we return to our creatives, we return to our cultural advocates who are defining this precise question in the works that they produce, in the songs that they produce, in their advocacy, in their communities. And what I appreciate as well in how this award has taken shape is that it's quite diverse in terms of the awards from whom they're named after. We can think about the award for original Belizean music, Ante Palacio, or we can think about the Eligio Pante award for the safeguarding of traditional medicine and indigenous knowledge. So it's named after in our own people. It's our opportunity as an independent country to recognize these national icons, in some cases community icons, and to be able to say to them, their work continue to have relevance, and to give confidence to upcoming artists, to upcoming cultural advocates, to continue this work that we must do as an independent country.
For me, it's like building on legacies. And I love that we are able to highlight that with original Belizeans as the holders of these titles, and then see other Belizeans continue to carry on that legacy. For the past 5 years, we've seen persons be recognized. Talk to us about what goes into highlighting and choosing individuals year after year.
Right. Well, one of the really fascinating aspects to this process is that it usually is open around 4 months prior to September, and it allows any individual groups or organizations to nominate candidates for the award. So it comes from the people, and this is then reviewed by the National Celebrations Commission. And this year is very special because in addition to the 7 awards that we were anticipating, the Commission received a very strong proposal for the nomination of Diane Halak, who was a former president of NICH. And so we have 8 persons to be awarded today at the House of Culture Museum of Belize compound here in Belize City. And so it's a very momentous occasion for all the awardees. Like I mentioned, one of the good attributes of this award is it seeks to be very diverse in terms of its scope, in terms of its general approach in allowing citizens to nominate their candidates by giving a write-up and a justification on why they deserve the award.
Let's step back a bit. So while we know who the 8 awardees are, it's right there on the screen, there's a generation of Belizeans who may not know who was Beverly Smith Lopez, who may not know who was George Gabb, who may not know who was Rosita Baltazar. So let's talk about those icons and the contributions that they made to our Belizean culture, so to speak. Let's start with you, Javan.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Always a pleasure to share what Belize is, and when we look at individuals, particularly how the awards are set up. Indeed, these are persons whose works, pre-independence, post-independence, have impacted the lives of so many. Take the case of George Gabb. Who would have thought that sculpting would have such an impact? That, you know, when we look at our currency, and you see the sleeping giant that he carved, or other individuals that he inspired. Last year, 2 years ago, Carl Gordon, for example, who was a student of George Gabb, also he received an award because of that the creativity that is put into showing aspects of Belizean life. We have people such as Z. Egel. You know, those of us who went to high school in the 80s, 90s.
Remember Becca Lam?
Becca Lam.
Yeah.
But more than Becca Lam, Z. Egel wrote so many other books. The Fiesta of San Joaquin, for example.
In times like these.
In times like these. And literature in and of itself brings to life what Belize has been, what Belize continues to be, because, as you rightly mentioned, there are particular legacies, there are particular elements of life, whether it's in the city or in the rural areas, that we can all readily connect with. And so when we hear poetry, like this year, Leroy Young, Grandmaster,
yeah.
You know, and his work, including the soundtracks, the music added to it. You know,
I remember as a kid hearing pressure.
Yes. You know, you look forward to those, and that was the beginning of video production in Belize.
Yeah.
And so when you fast forward to so many artists that today have followed in that footstep, bringing that literary skill that only Belizeans can bring out, whether it be in Creole or lingua franca, in Spanish, in English, in Garifuna, but these are inspirational persons. Z. Egel's work being an exemplary one. There's so many authors, and we know that across the country, our people want to nominate other persons, and so the ongoing efforts then of the NCC to yearly recognize awardees, persons who were inspired and now are inspiring a younger generation of Belizeans, is a critical component of understanding the dynamics of Belizeanness.
You know, I mean, I think one of the things each of these persons who are recipients of these individual awards will tell you is that they don't do it for an award. They do it because they're passionate about what they do and what they love. But why is it important for us to, excuse me, why is it important for us to have events like this, especially during this time of the year, to spotlight people who are building upon their own legacies or legacies of others and highlighting themselves and putting Belize on the map, perhaps in their own way?
Yes, Arena, I think it goes back to Isani's question, right? Is that how do we foster this knowledge to the next generation who may have never heard about Eligio Panther, who have never heard of Lila Vernon, you know, because there's another generation after us, and two generation really, now that are entering primary school, high school this week without a knowledge of having heard these names before. And we feel that it's important that resources are made accessible. We have to create this knowledge, because if they enter a ChatGPT and ask who is Andy Palacio, ask who is Eligio Panther, ask who is Rosita Baltasar, that information would likely be, you know, screwed to one point, because we as Belizeans have not produced our own stories as yet. And so this is that attempt of bringing these people to the spotlight, ensuring that we produce videos and written material about them and making it accessible. And we have made this a collaboration with the Ministry of Education through the Access 501, where you can find all of this information as well as others in a section called Nation Builders. And I think that as well leads into your other question, which is we need more nation builders. We need more cultural and creative champions, and having role models and acknowledging them helps to inspire this process.
Here's a philosophical question. So, our generation, we're very rich in our appreciation for Belizean culture. If I look at myself, right, I'm in my early 40s, but if I look at my experiences growing up, I could remember Beverly Smith Lopez and her role in theater and the creative arts and what have you. I could remember Eligio Pante, right? And all of these other people who I would describe as perhaps our cultural forebears, right? The question is though, with American media and influence of everything else that's outside of Belize, do you think that the younger generation has that similar appreciation that we have for these individuals?
I don't think so. I mean, and that's the reality that we're now faced with. We fought hard and long to achieve, as I said, our political independence, with a long battle. And now we have another battle, which is a cultural battle.
Yeah.
How do we define ourselves in the face of globalization, in the face of climate change, and are there answers in this history, in this heritage, that these persons have been doing over time? And I think so. And that is the relevance. And as you said, it's a struggle. It's a philosophical struggle, or even you would say an ideological struggle. Who are we as Belizeans?
Yeah.
And at the National Celebration Commission and at the National Institute of Culture and History, we believe that we can find some very good answers to that by looking into our past, by looking into the pioneers, as you rightly said, in our cultural field. But you're absolutely right. If most teens today are on TikTok, and on TikTok they are being inspired by global music and media and other forms of entertainment, and very rarely by our indigenous, by our African and Maya roots, by our East Indian roots. But we do want to applaud those individuals who are doing this work. And so one of the awardees, for instance, is our brother from the north, Andy Chuk, who is being awarded the Eligio Pante Award, and he has been doing a very good job in social media in terms of promoting that Yucatec heritage
Indigenous
and history,
knowledge,
and indigenous knowledge, and he does a lot of graphics illustrating these folklore and the spiritual aspect to Maya culture. And so I think that there are some good examples, but by and large, it's not a battle that I think we feel very confident that we are winning. We know that we have the capacity to believe in ourselves, and we need to be able to share this with the next generation. As I said, we call them millennials, and there's even another generation. Is it X or Y? I'm not sure what letter we are.
Well, I'm Z, but apparently there's alpha after that,
yep.
and it just goes, in my opinion, downhill.
But if I may add too,
Sure.
remember that the young people that we are looking at today, who might be challenged more by outside forces, technology, etc., are also living with parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, in a neighborhood where individuals such as, for example, Miss Margaret Welcome, who's into arts and craft and who's receiving the Lila Vernon Award for the continuity of traditions, basket making, titay, the use of titay. In fact, you go to so many resorts and other business places, and we see these baskets, and these are locally made. The material is from here.
Yeah.
And she's promoting a practice, and by the way, that's part of her livelihood, of a practice that she learned from elders in Gales Point. And even though she moved to Tiketl, she carries on that tradition. And we still see, for example, in opportunities.
That, Giovanni. I hate to cut you cross, but I'm glad you're touching on that point, because there's the commercial aspect of basket weaving, which we all see at these fancy resorts and what have you. But the question that I have is the cultural legacy of it being passed on to the younger generation, that they still have the interest to do that. Like, for instance, right, in our Garifuna culture, we have the Ruguma and the Hibise, which is done with basket weaving and the Titaya as well, right? But we don't have a generation of younger people who are still following that, right? So in the Creole culture with Miss Welcome, who does that, the question is, does she have younger people who have that interest, who are understanding not just the fact that they can make money by doing it, but the cultural aspect of how that came to be and how that's part of them?
Yeah.
And this is where the linkage comes in between the elders and the younger generation, because many of our elders, and I think that this is true of every generation, there comes a point when your focus is elsewhere. And as you grow, as you mature, you realize that, guess what? We have everything right here. We have people who have the know-how, people who are willing to share and to teach the skills. So these type of awards then are very relevant. They will inspire other people, and they already do. We can see a number of workshops that go on. Niche in particular, through its various branches, continues to promote workshops that brings in people teaching skills.
Yeah.
And so that's, I believe that the uphill battle in terms of foreign influence, plastics and glass and so on, will be blocked at some point in time, because what is rooted in Belize is unique.
You know, I want to, on that point, perhaps take the conversation in a different direction, because when we think of the generation that we have right now of young people, they're thinking of ways that they can make money. And in general, when you think of culture and artists, aside from being passionate about what you do, you want to know that you can make a livelihood of what you love as well. And so are we seeing, or are we recognizing the ability to use our cultural innovations and the storylines that we have from persons way beyond us, that we can use that to build the economy?
Right. I think more and more the next generation after us are as well is still viewing content creation as really not just something that they can do on a pastime, but something that can grow their influence and grow their income. So more and more that's becoming a reality for Belizeans, and I think the cultural and creative industries as well expanding at a rate that we are really yet need to prepare for, in terms of the technical resources, the financial resources that can be made available. And we are seeing this in other initiatives that we are partnered in with, like for instance the Beltrade program, that is a small grant initiative. Because I also sit on that committee, I can tell you that when they open up those grants, they're receiving 200 to 300 applications in their different, there's a startup, maturing, and export ready grant. And people are interested, they want to overcome some of these financial challenges that they have. They have great ideas. That's not something that we are weak in. We have a lot of ideas, but the challenge is accessing the technical know-how or the finances and remain committed to execute that idea. So I think what this award and this initiative is about is that it gives them confidence. You have a great idea, don't wait another day. Get started today. You don't need to wait for the fancy equipment for you to exhibit your talent and your creative skill. You can start with what you have and remain committed, because it's one thing to have a great idea, but it's another to execute it. And I think that's the difference that we're saying, that if you remain firm and if you carry out your calling, that that creative energy that you feel in the morning or late at night that doesn't make you go to sleep, don't let that pass by. There's something there that needs to be shared with fellow Belizeans and the world. And so I think the cultural and creative economy is something that is really going to blossom into the next decade. And it's something that we Belizeans and at Niche feel very strongly about.
Well, let's take a look
we
at the
do-
awards.
We do
yeah?
need to mention them. I don't know, Sabrina, if you want to help me with this, because this is the
Absolutely.
first time we're on the media announcing them. So
All right,
let's get started.
Okay, so the event takes place today.
It is today, this
Where?
afternoon at 2 p.m.
Yes.
at the House of Culture, Belize City compound here. So that's the Dame Manita Gordon Drive, as it's now
So
called.
what we're going to do on screen, we are going to bring up each of the persons that will be receiving awards today, starting off with Leroy Young, also known as the Grand Master. He will be receiving the Z. Edgell Award for Literary Arts. Now, as I mentioned, I remember as a teenager seeing Mr. Young in his bathroom, the top about pressure, and now he's being recognized for his contribution in the literary arts. Talk about how special it is to see him be able to be recognized.
Yes, I'm reflecting here on a video that we prepared on him, and he said, he's walking downtown Belize City, and so people say, "What, Grandmaster?" And they hail him, they recognize him, people from all walks of life. And in his video, he said, "I still the wrong." And he recites his wonderful poem about time.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who wants who haven't seen him for a while should come out this afternoon and hear from him. I think there's a lot of power, there's a lot of richness in his social critique that he has offered through his poems. There are many things that one could say about him. I haven't met him in person, but I
Really, you have not met him in person?
No, like you, I remember him on the
I'll tell you though,
famous person.
Rolando, he seems like one of those persons that you would pass on Albert Street and you wouldn't even realize you're like passing greatness.
Yep, indeed.
It happens too often where
Yes.
we don't recognize the actual people who are behind a movement, right?
Absolutely. Well, up next we have,
Mrs. Mimi Martinez, right?
and she is
receiving the Rosita Baltasar Award for Dance. There she is. What can you guys share with us about Miss Mimi?
Well, we know Miss Mimi from very early had this passion for ballet. Growing up in Belize City, for me, living in Belize City for a while, we would often hear about, shows are coming up, performances are coming up at the Bliss at different times of the year. So you look forward to, those were our better part of entertainment. But Miss Mimi didn't leave it just at that. She has continued with it, the inspiration that she has had from people like Rosita Baltasar and many others who were into training Belizeans to perform. And we've seen a number of Belizeans who would go out to perform. We recall the years when announcement would be made, just like it was done a couple of weeks ago, of Belizeans going to Carifesta to perform, to put on shows that integrate the life of Belizeans through dance. So,
all right. Well, congratulations to Miss Martinez. After that, we have Derek Strawn, and he's receiving the Andy Palacio Award for Original Belizean Music. Now, this is a big one. I know a lot of people are, hopefully, they would want to get an Andy Palacio Award.
yeah. Mr. Strawn, I recall a lot, especially for those of us who were young at that time, September celebrations in particular, and even dances, not only in Belize City, but outside of Belize City. If you recall Bamiki Bandula, that band was the band of that era. No? But Mr. Strawn, as a saxophonist, as a jazz musician, the passion that he would put into playing that instrument, and along with the other members of the band, just added so much life, so much joy to really getting into the spirit of music. And by the way, we're all familiar with Shalai Baby
Yes.
and Ramsey Mule Birthday, which Mr. Peters and the Boom and Chime had come up with. Well, guess what? That was recorded at his studio in Belize City
That's
before it was
amazing.
taken out to actually get it pressed and resold in the form of.
Imagine sitting
vinyl.
down with
Vinyl.
these guys and just talking about their life. I mean, just those pictures that you saw, it's like they've lived so many lifetimes.
Yeah. And music is so inspirational too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Mr. Strand is receiving the Andy Palacio Award at this time.
Well deserved. All right, so up next we have Andy Chuck. I know that Rolando had
Yes.
alluded to the works of Mr. Chuck before.
Yeah, give respect to him.
So I guess we could go next to Gilvano Swayze there.
Cousin.
Yes, cousin and uncle and
I
that.
think I'm getting convinced that he's my real cousin.
I
after
just
hearing
want to
it
say, you
so
know what? I
often.
could see the resemblance, Rolando.
Right.
So yes, talk to us a bit about Gilvano's works and his influence.
No, I mean, I think Gilvano is, because he's so contemporary and in this space so often, he needs no introduction, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, fair enough.
Yes, Gilvano, well deserved. It's about, I think one of the interesting aspects that I see about Gilvano was looking at some of his early photographs. I'm like, what, you've been in this for so long?
So long.
His interesting storyline, which we will cover later, is that I think he studied to have started in marine biology, and he did about 1 year after and realized, after an exhibition, he's working in an exhibition, he enjoys the freedom of art.
Yeah.
And look at him there.
Look at him there.
So here's my knowledge of Gilvano.
Go ahead, please.
He is such a faithful understudy of Yasser Musa. That's how I met Gilvano, right? This was before Image Factory. He was part of the whole movement at SJC with the arts and everything. And to see him grow and blossom into this person where he's still very much contemporary, as you mentioned, right? So the younger generation can still appreciate who he is while he's still living. But those of us who grew up around him saw this entire transformation.
Right. No, one of the amazing talent that I think Gilvano has that is perhaps not as widely known is his ability to take art and let it be educational. He's able to tie in the environmental science, the politics. He's able to tie in the ecology into the different art displays that he has curated, and most recently with the Handmade in Belize exhibition. I've seen him really engage hundreds of students across the country through this exhibit, and I think that has to be applauded, and we need more people like him who is always willing and ready to support other artists as well. We really want to give that respect as well.
Yeah.
His sense of humor too, okay?
I'm telling you.
He makes the work enjoyable.
Yes. all
I
right.
would want him to be part of IACR for sure.
Well, there you heard it.
Nice.
After that, we have Miss Margaret Welcome, and we spoke about her a bit earlier as well, so I'll move along and go to Charmaine Garcia. She's receiving the Beverly Smith Lopez Award for the practice, teaching, and general transmission of acting in theater and film. And this makes complete sense to me. I mean, come on, we've seen Miss Garcia all over the stage. We've seen her in No Matter What. I remember that as well. But talk about her being recognized.
Charmaine, I remember my first encounter with Charmaine has been through Love FM. Always such a pleasant person to work with in promoting our education and cultural work at Niche. And so Charmaine has a huge level of influence, having worked at these national media productions. And I think one of the surprising thing that I learned about Miss Charmaine as well is that she's very open, you know, and she's such a as like Gilvano, very pleasant to work with. Always fun, always there to have an educational, engaging session through this art form of drama. And I think that she would probably agree that drama has a huge level of influence that is on top for Belize in terms of its educational power is still there, and it remains a bit hidden. I think we've not capitalized or utilized drama as much as possible to be able to influence our upcoming generations.
And finally, we
Diane
have
Haylock. We introduced her earlier as former president of Niche, but man, she goes way back. If you think about Spear, you think about all the other engagements that she has had in Belizean culture and the Belizeanness.
Right, and I remember the first time I had heard the name Diane Haylock, Miss Diane, and it was with a movie that was being filmed in Belize, The Dogs of War.
Yes.
And we heard several Belizeans were hired in that, but not everybody got the chance to actually appear on that. So my recollection of Miss Diane, my earliest one, is of her in that movie, and there were other persons like Sarita Acosta, who had represented Belize in the Miss Universe pageant. But with Miss Diane, I think her work with Spear, her connection in terms of community outreach, in meeting people, in working with various persons throughout the country, really set a very solid ground for when she took over, when she became the president of NICH, and how she was able to move the institution forward. And so NICH has had other persons, of course, who have all set the bar high. And I think recognition of Ms. Diane at this point is very commendable. I mean, like all the other awardees, nobody was working for a prize. Nobody was working to get recognition as such. But the good thing is that the NCC, and as Rolando mentioned, under the leadership of the Honorable Francis Fonseca, has seen the need that, guess what? How do we motivate our own people? How do we motivate our younger generation? Than by recognizing persons and the work they do. So Ms. Diane, in this case, congrats to all of them. Congrats to her too in this achievement.
All right. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful event. We also want to inform you guys that we will be streaming it on our GBM platform as well. So stay tuned for that a little bit later on in the day when the event goes live. Gentlemen, as we wrap up this conversation, you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
No, I want to thank you, Isani, thank you, Sabrina, for having us this morning, and to maybe emphasize 2 points. There are 2 phrases that always stay in my mind on a day like today, which is no wait for a man dead for telling good.
Yep.
Yes.
And we also need to pursue yourself. I think this is the purpose of the award. Let us acknowledge those persons who have done excellent work, and let us inspire others to do the same. And we can do this in singing, music creation, but we can also do it by saying good morning to your fellow neighbor, and by extending a hand in someone in time of need, by being good Belizeans, as Judge Price advocated for us to do. I think today is a great day for these individuals, and I want to also congratulate them and share in their happiness and encourage them to continue inspiring us in culture and creative excellence.
Well, I have a motivational quote I'd like to share with you guys this morning, and I think it ties in quite well with the conversation that we've been having so far. Today's motivational quote is, "Though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending." And this comes from Carl Bard. Quite a beautiful motivational statement right there. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
And we wish you guys all the best.
Thank you.
All right, we take a quick break now, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, the conversation switches directly into Ladyville, lacing up for change.